أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كاف يا عين صاد. كاف يا عين صاد. ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا. وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا. يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله رب رضيا. يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كاف يا عين صاد. ذكر رحمة ربك ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله رب رضيا يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين وقد خلقتك من قبل ولم تك شيئا قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس 3 ليال سويا فخرج على قومه من المحراب فأوحى إليهم أن سبحوا بكرة وعشيا يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة، يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا وحنانا من لدنا وزكاة وحنانا من لدنا وزكاة وكان تقيا وبرا بوالديه ولم يكن جبارا عصيا وسلام علي يوم ولد ويوم يموت وسلام عليه يوم ولد ويوم يموت ويوم يبعث حيا. صدق الله العظيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح.
لا حول ولا قوة
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله.
قل لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصيهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. قال الله تعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, for those who are present at the beginning of the Eid Khutbah, I made a remark and I mentioned that the sermon that I delivered was not prepared using AI, artificial intelligence. Some people commented about that afterwards. Now, part of it was a joke, but part of it was serious because some people needed to hear that. That the khutbah that I was delivering wasn't just coming from data points or information, and not even something generated from the mind, but rather something that ultimately emanates from the heart. Because there are some within our community who believe that the khutbah, the sermon, is about delivering information, right? Information. But in reality, it's actually about facilitating transformation. That is the reason for having the Friday khutbah. So some people, they view the Friday sermon, the khutbah, as something that is a necessary ritual. But in reality, the purpose of the Friday Jummah Khutbah is so that you feel something that is deeply spiritual. Right? So we're going from information to transformation, from ritual to spiritual. Now some people needed to hear that because people have seen, and many of you probably have seen, the sermons that have been generated by ChatGPT and by other, well, that's the main artificial intelligence that we have exposure to, but as you know, there are other forms of it. And many, to be fair, right, many have fairly come to the conclusion that I think these khutbahs are better than the ones we get from our local Imam. Which is kind of embarrassing for some of our local Imams, right? That a computer, which is just basically Googling stuff and patching it together, is able to put together, a presentation that is more coherent than what we often hear. But what's problematic about that is something deeper, which is that many are starting to question, do we really need ulama? Do we need scholars? Do we need imams? When we can cultivate all of that information ourselves, when we have all of those data points at our fingertips, and we have artificial intelligence that can relate it together and weave a presentation on any particular topic, and all of that is at our disposal. When Imam Asim Khan from England, he's the author of Simple Seerah. He asked ChatGPT to generate a khutbah on taqwa. This happened at the end of last year. And he posted the khutbah that the AI generated on Twitter. And that post went viral. GPT is the way to go. Other people, they're like, Armageddon is happening, the AI is going to kill us. Right? Maybe it will, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be ChatGPT if that happens, right? It may be a different form of it. But people were amazed at the quality of the presentation that the AI was able to generate. Now I want to pause for a moment and reflect in a broader sense that as Muslims, we have an Islamic worldview that automatically has been and is receptive to new technology. The worldview of the Muslim is to embrace advancements and technology. Muslims don't treat knowledge with suspicion, the way that some other religious faiths do. In Al-Andalus, for example, in Islamic Spain, Muslims continued to develop the decimal system, which had been developed in India, which had been expanded during the Abbasid times in Iraq and other areas. They pushed into algebra and developed the zero, which was very important. They continued in geometry and developed mathematics as we know today. Az-Zahrawi put together, one of the famous medieval physicians, he put together a treatise on surgery that was continued, it was utilized in all of the hospitals and universities in Europe well into the 1700s. For hundreds and hundreds of years, because they had not produced anything like it, and because it was translated into Latin and disseminated widely. Much of the global exploration that we know of, even the discovery of America, right, and other places around the world, were because of developments to the triangular sail, right, and the idea of having the rudder in the back instead of having it on the side. All of these developments happened in Al-Andalus, in Islamic Spain, and in North Africa and Morocco. The astrolabe, of course, everybody knows about how that allowed for international navigation. You can even use an astrolabe to determine the time of the day, if you use it properly. Hydraulic technology, in order to move water from one place through aqueducts to another location, allowed for irrigation, it allows for expansion of agricultural land, it allowed for the kind of gardens that we see in Al-Hamra, in one of the most beautiful locations in the world, which is the most visited site in Spain, which is a deeply Islamophobic country. Their number one attraction and their number two attraction are Islamic sites, which they can't help, but it's part of their heritage. This is why they used to say, "Man aslama tahadara," that whoever embraces Islam becomes sophisticated. Unfortunately, we have internalized that colonialism. And I don't mean to speak for everyone, because we have indigenous Muslims, we have converts, we have a very diverse community. But those of us that are immigrants, we have this inferiority complex. We're like, oh, Muslims are backwards, our country. No, your country is backwards. Muslims are not backwards, okay? That's because you ruined your own country, all right? Don't blame this on Islam. We have nothing to do with it. Man aslama tahadar. That if you really adopt the Islamic worldview, you will understand nuance. You will have a sophisticated way. You won't just close the door on new technology, but understand that it may have benefits and it also can have harm. Allah said in the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu 'allama al-Quran. First thing is that He taught the Quran. Because before He even created us, there had to be revelation. 'Allama al-Quran, then He says, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانِ. And then He says, عَلَّمَهُ الْبَيَانِ. So what is the thing that makes us insan? What is it that makes us rational? The pen. That He taught us by the pen. So knowledge is what makes us elevated. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talked about وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Allah mentions about the creation of Adam. And then He meant فَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in us the ruh. فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Then they all went down in prostration. So what is the thing that makes the human being special? So the intellect is what makes us rational, but what makes us a special being is our ruh. It's our soul. These are the two aspects of the human being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes within the Quran. As Muslims, we understand that with new technology comes new responsibility, that we should not rush into new technologies merely to maximize profit. And those of you, I know we have some people that like to dabble in the stock market, some professionally, some with their, Robinhood accounts, and, be careful with that. A lot of people lost a lot of money during COVID because, they're playing with the stock market. But people have seen how technology stocks have gone down over time, except for the ones that have invested heavily in cloud and in AI technologies, because people believe that to be the future. They think that they're seeing that this is something which is profit maximizing. Now, if we go back to that Islamic worldview, then we will approach it with the same level of excitement, but also with a degree of trepidation, because we understand that the value of the technology is linked to the maslahah. It is linked to the level of social good, that we need to maximize the social benefit. Muslims are always able to see that benefit. But we understand that there are some technologies, as they become more developed and more refined, they become more and more beneficial. And there are other technologies, the more refined and developed they are, the more harmful they are. For example, as medical therapeutics become more advanced, there are many people, they go into clinical trials. Some succeed, some fail. But as a result of these clinical trials, we continue to develop targeted therapeutics that become more and more effective over time. And the side effects, they get reduced as we come to understand not only the basic sciences, but the actual targets that are being used for those therapeutics. That is a net benefit to the society. So the Muslims, that's why they embraced medicine in all of Islamic history, although there are many cases in which treatments did not succeed. So there's a risk, but there's a risk with a benefit which is increasing. And this is something that was embraced. Then there's other thing that has an increased negative benefit. For example, in the past week, those that are following global politics are following in Ukraine the request for cluster munitions. And this has been utilized in many wars in the past few decades. Things that we will have to live with decades from now, because a person, like for example in Iraq, after the Gulf War was over, how many people died because of these cluster munitions, because of mines that are left behind that affect an innocent person? What about the firebombing of Tokyo? What about the nuclear weapons of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, for example? These were all the results of technological advances. But as the technology became more advanced, it became more lethal. It became more harmful. One very salient example, in October of 1945, Oppenheimer, who you know was the head of the Manhattan Project, he tried to convince President Truman to ban the use of nuclear weapons. He went and traveled to Washington to meet President Truman, and he said, I feel that I have blood on my hands. Because he felt the weight of responsibility, because he had headed the project to develop nuclear weapons. And President Truman famously got very upset, and he said that it's of no concern to you. And if anyone has blood on their hands, that it was the president. And think about it, at that moment, brothers and sisters, people thought that this was the war to end all wars. Has that borne out? People thought that we had issued, in Latin they say that it was Pax Atomica, that this was going to be a period of atomic peace, because no one, knowing that there are atomic weapons, would ever dare to start a war. But that has not panned out. People thought that there would be, that more lethal weapons will disincentivize people from engaging in conflict. Now Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he said when talking about the Sharia, he said, فَإِنَّ الشَّرِيعَةَ مَبْنَاهَا وَأَسَاسُهَا عَلَى الْحِكَمِ وَمَصَالِحِ الْعِبَادِ فِي الْمَعَاشِ وَالْمَعَادِ. He wrote that the Sharia is founded upon wisdom and welfare for the servants in this life as well as in the afterlife. And so when we analyze anything from the Islamic lens, from the Shari'i lens, then we analyze that how does this fit into our higher principles? How does this fit into our maqasid? Because we read the Quran, we didn't just read the Quran, we deep dove into the Quran in istiqra'. We derive not only what the words say, but the deeper meaning, the deeper principle, the reasoning behind it. and we extract it from the Quran that we have to preserve a deen, faith. We have to preserve life. We have to preserve the intellect, lineage, property, education, sincerity, social welfare, human dignity, freedom, and the list goes on and on and on. The ulama have listed what these maqasid, what these higher principles are. Sheikh Muhammad Abu Zahra, he believed that the Sharia was a mercy to humanity with three major goals. Number one is nurturing the righteous individual. Number two is establishing justice. And three is the realization of benefits. And how many rules we have in the Sharia? We have qawaid fiqhiyah that talk about realizing benefits being superior to limiting harm. So with that lens, we apply it to AI technology. 50% of AI researchers, these are not random people off the street. These are the experts in the field. 50% of them say that there is at least a 10% chance of human extinction due to AI. Can you imagine if a pilot on a plane, this is an example that we heard mentioned, if a pilot on the plane announces, hey everybody, so 50% of the people that made this plane think that there's a 10% chance we're not going to make it. Would you get on that plane? No, you'd be like, where's the emergency exit? You'll be ready to jump out of there as quick as possible. But the experts in the field understand that we don't have a workable framework in which we can get the benefits from AI without it really going off of the wheels coming off. So why is it, brothers and sisters, that AI has not taken over the world? Serious question. Why is it that it hasn't happened so far? Now, ChatGPT is actually language-based. We have wildly exaggerated how powerful AI is, just because it's kind of fun and surprising. But it's based on the training and the data points that you provide. So for design, it doesn't respond when you ask certain sensitive topics. It's not going to respond. Many people, both Islamophobes and Muslims, as soon as ChatGPT came out, they started asking questions about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And then as soon as they had programmed in there, they knew that this was going to be a problem. So they're like, sorry, you can't answer that question. But that's by design. It was hardwired that way. Because AI is learning based on the questions and the answers that we provide. So we can influence. What are the limitations? Number one, AI does not have common sense. Things that we know intuitively, through experience. There is a knowledge that we gain through khibra, right? That AI doesn't have. It doesn't have access to the internet. It can't handle multiple tasks together. It has limited knowledge. It has no creativity. The human being is creative. It cannot provide any in-depth information. It can't synthesize lots of details together. It faces difficulty when there's a task that's very specialized. It cannot provide, in many cases it provides biased answers because it replicates the bias that is already existent in the sources that it's using. It cannot understand the context. It doesn't understand idioms. Everything is very literal. It can't understand emotion. It can't understand sarcasm, irony, human, all of that only a human being can do. It faces issues in complex mathematical problems, and there are lots and lots of errors within the AI that exists today. The reason I mention all of this is because, to go back to the original question, can AI replace a real imam, a real scholar, or a real mufti, or a real mujtahid? A mujtahid who has to be knowledgeable about language, who has to understand context, who has to know fiqh al-waqi', that has to understand the environment and the situation in which the fatwa and the hukm is going to be implemented. The customs, because al-urf muhakkam, they have to understand the customs and the conventions of people and how people live. Can AI do all of that? People want to be their own surgeon. Have you ever considered doing that? Why don't we let AI do it? But when it comes to our religion, we think that the internet, we trust the internet and technology and ChatGPT over our trust of the genuine resources that are at our disposal. How we arrive at the answer matters. Ibn Uyayna, he said that going to the sources directly for law is a source of misguidance for everyone except for experienced scholars. What does that mean? He said that if you have a question about, okay, how should I pray? And you open the books, you open the Quran and the Hadith, instead of consulting with the expert in that field, that will be a source of misguidance. That doesn't mean don't read the Quran, don't read the Hadith on your own. You do, but you read it for benefit, not in order to extract rulings. That is something that you derive from the experts in the field. Now, ChatGPT can only generate answers based on the data that it's given. But there are benefits. We can use ChatGPT to research the Quran, to organize the Quran, to categorize it. There are mathematical phenomena. The word man and the word woman appear in the Quran in equal number. The earth and the sea, they appear in the Quran in equal in proportion to the space, the volume that it occupies. And the list goes on and on. We can use technology in order to gain more information about that. One person, I think a teenager, used ChatGPT to depict images of Yawm al-Qiyamah. And they're unbelievable, the accuracy, because the information, detailed information was given to AI as to what Yawm al-Qiyamah looks like. And photos were generated that will boggle your mind. You're like, well, I heard the hadith, but I didn't see it visually. That might be a benefit to some people, but don't go crazy with that. Too much fire and brimstone can scare you. But as soon as AI is given matters of the heart, that is when artificial intelligence is not intelligent. That is when it fails, because it has no emotional intelligence. Then it shows racial bias. It puts children in unsafe situations. It misreads intention and the situation. It can tell us date and time. But artificial intelligence, not now and not in the future, will ever be able to teach us and to show us the right way in our religion. For that we need a true teacher. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال الله تعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وأنعم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك وحبيبك وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, many of you might know Sheikh Muhammad Dedu. He's one of the greatest scholars on earth. He's from Mauritania. Now, many people don't know, but he actually has a photographic memory. He has memorized almost all of the hadith collection, verbatim. He exists in the world right now, right? And including Sahih al-Bukhari, he has memorized. And he is often attacked from both sides. You know, Salafis have a problem, Sufis have, you know you're in the middle when everybody has a problem with you, right? So he's one of those people, but I think he's an amazing scholar. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, he mentioned that once he was with him and he showed him a page of al-Bukhari, right? A copy of one of the main sources of al-Bukhari. And on that one page, Sheikh Dedu was able to find 2 errors because of his memory. Now consider that his memory is even more authoritative than any technology that goes on. He's able to identify mistakes, and when I say mistakes, I'm talking about tashkil, vowels. Mistakes that don't even exist in anything that's recorded on the face of the earth. When you have people like that, brothers and sisters, ChatGPT is not impressive anymore. It looks like a joke. Like, okay, you copied and pasted. Good job, computer. Anyone can do that, right? Sheikh Abu Hamid al-Ghazali in Riyadat al-Nafs, he said the first thing that you have to do is empower a sheikh in your life. Find a teacher, a guide, a sheikh, a sheikha, someone who will observe you, who will watch you, who will diagnose and treat your spiritual ailments. Imam Abdullah bin Alawi al-Haddad from Yemen, he said, وَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ شَيْخٍ تَسِيرُ بِسَيْرِهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ أَهْلِ النُّفُوسِ الزَّكِيَّةِ من العلماء العارفين بربهم فإن لم تجد فالصدق خير مطية. He said that it is pertinent to have a mentor, to have a sheikh upon whose spiritual path you travel, to Allah from those whose hearts are purified, from among the scholars who have Al-Arefin bi-Rabbihim, those who have intimate knowledge of their Lord. If you cannot find such a mentor, then truthfulness is the best provision. My dear brothers and sisters, AI is never going to be our shaykh. It cannot come to know us. It cannot be our mentor. It cannot find our flaws. It cannot direct us in a direction when we're lost. It can't teach us adab, can't teach us akhlaq and character. These online influencers, they also don't have that. We need people who provide for us veneration of this religion and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, speaking of great scholars, on Thursday we have the very well-known Sheikh Muhammad bin Yahya al-Ninawi. He's visiting ICCP on Thursday at 7 p.m. Please register online so we have food for you, so you'll be able to join the dinner. On the same day, there's also a rally at the Board of Education in Rockville. Everybody's invited to come to both. We also have a special event on the Thursday following that. It's an iftar program for the day of Ashura. And the Prophet ﷺ indicated that this can be a means for a whole year of sins being forgiven. If you fast on the day of Ashura, it's recommended to fast on Wednesday the 26th and also Thursday the 27th, which is when we have the program. We're going to continue the Shifa tonight with Dr. Tariq at 7 p.m. And Sunday morning, we're talking about Prophet Hud at 5 a.m. after Fajr. There was a bag of shoes that was found in the cafe. If it's yours, please let us know. As you know, we have the Umrah trip, which is coming up. This time, it's including a tour of Egypt. You have any Egyptians here? I think so. What did it say? It's the Dunya, right? It's the mother of all civilization. So we're going to learn a little bit about pharaonic history. We're going to learn a lot about Islamic history, in addition to seeing Mecca and Medina. This time we have a hard capacity. We can only take 40 people. So please join up as soon as possible. The summer camp is going well. We have amazing counselors. Sister Asra is leading that. And after Jummah, she has a troubleshooting help desk at the cafe. You can join if you'd like, or if you have any questions. Last thing I want to mention, I'm very pleased. Some of you noticed a crane. Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us. I'm pleased to report the wonderful news about the construction. We have, Dr. Tariq, he always talks about the clipboard man, right? You know the clipboard man. So we got all the approvals that we need. The timber frame arrived earlier this week, and we are mid-erecting the structure. It's going to take probably 2 weeks, inshallah, and then we will proceed with the roof. The main thing is please be patient with the parking. We are in a crazy parking crunch for the next 3 weeks. Then it's going to get better, inshallah. We also want to make dua for Shifa for a 19-year-old, Yusuf Murad Nazarov, who's the son of Sister Yazgul. They're active in our ICCP. We want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him Shifa and ajilan la yughadiru saqama, as well as all of those who are sick within our community and our loved ones. Brother Shahidul Hamid, he had a newborn baby girl, Hala Aisha Shahul. May Allah grant her a healthy life, made her a qurrat a'yun, the light of the eyes of her parents, and make her a leader for the muttaqeen. Allahumma ighfir lil muslimin wal muslimat wal mu'minin wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qareebun mujibud da'awat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He forgives all of those who passed away, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate and unite this community and make it a shining beacon for all of humanity. Ameen. Bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. So we'll be calling the iqamah. We will need to ask everybody to shift to the left. So let's try to form the rows. Yeah. Okay, so keep moving so we can proceed with the salah. Yeah. So fill all the gaps as much as possible. Yeah. Same with the ladies, please, ladies. We want to complete the rows, make space so they can enter.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا اعتدلوا تراصوا سدوا الفرج. Close all the gaps. اخشعوا في صلاتكم. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أفمن شرح الله صدره للإسلام فهو على نور من ربه فويل للقاسية قلوبهم من ذكر الله أولئك في ضلال مبين. الله نزل أحسن الحديث كتابا متشابها مثاني تقشعر منه جلود الذين يخشون ربهم ثم تلين جلودهم وقلوبهم إلى ذكر الله ذلك هدى الله يهدي به من يشاء ومن يضلل الله فما له من هاد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين. إن الله يعلم غيب السماوات والأرض والله بصير بما تعملون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum. So we're informed that the crane is going to be doing some work. We don't want anything to happen to your cars. So if you're parked close to the building or against the barn, please move your vehicle because the crane is going to be operating in that area. So the handicapped ones next to the building and all of the vehicles in front of the barn. If you can move your car in the next 3-4 minutes, please. Jazakallah.